how do we approach these traditions, whether it's directly related to the holidays that we're experiencing now? How do we revisit these traditions in a way that can both honor the past, the good parts, and still honor the present of where we are today? Welcome back to the Estranged Millennials podcast. My name is Nic Flores, and I'm joined with
Alisha Flores.
We are husband and wife, not brother and sister, so you can just cut that out of the picture like we did our parents. She is estranged for, 10 years?
Almost 10 years.
Yeah. I'm going on a solid 2 years. And so we decided we're going to start a podcast sharing our tips, tricks, experiences, failures, wins, victories, all in between on the things we've learned about being estranged from our parents, living with sets of parents, and yada yada, becoming married, having family of our own. And so that's the podcast.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
And so with starting a podcast about estrangement, I thought it would be helpful if I gathered some data, some reference points that we can jump off of in terms of estrangement. And I came across a study from 2019 by a sociologist named Carl Pillemer from Cornell University. He found that 27% of Americans 18 and older had cut off contact with a family member, not specifically parents, but just family members in general. And you can roughly estimate from 2019 now 67 million American people. And throughout this study, he goes over a number of pathways that people have become estranged from their parents, ranging from divorce, parental favoritism, other triggers such as in-laws and money, and all sorts of unrealistic expectations. He goes in at the end and wraps it up saying that he learned that people who are estranged from a family member feel deep sadness, long for reconnection, and wish that they could turn back the clock and act differently to prevent the rift. And boy, do we feel that every holiday season of thinking about our past with our parents or family members and traditions. And right now, between Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, not to mention my birthday, my own personal birthday being in November. If you want to loop in New Year's in January, that's just 4 straight months of holidays where we continue to evaluate our traditions, and they're just up in the air. What do we want to bring in from our trauma-filled childhoods into today? And I know we, as a couple, have even dealt with this, even pre-children,
right?
Especially Alisha directly, because I was still in contact with my parents up until 2 years ago. And so that's the question, is like, what can be redeemed? Do we feel even worthy enough to reignite past traditions of our own? Because we cut our families off. So it's like, what I did with them only going to live in the past with them, or can I reignite that today with them no longer in my life?
I think there's good things that can be brought from your family's origin. Yeah, you've cut them off, but it's also very much that's part of your childhood or your upbringing. It's part of your story. Whether I'm sure there's a few things I can think of that I wouldn't want to bring aside from, the trauma, but certain traditions or the ways that I was brought up that I don't want to bring into our kids' lives. But I can't say everything was the worst thing ever. There are some things that I can look back on and think, that was a good quality my parents had, or that was a good memory I had. And there was definitely a lot of bad outweighing the good, I guess. But I can't say that everything in my life was miserable with my parents, because I know that's just not true. And I think there are some things that I would like to implement with our kids that I know are good. Just because we don't talk to the families we came from doesn't mean that it's still not part of our story.
Yeah, I know one thing, at least with us, was you were pretty adamant straight out of the gate that you're going to make cinnamon rolls on Christmas morning. Even before we had kids, it was just something you still wanted to do, even though you're
that was
outside
something that I pretty much grew up with. And I wouldn't necessarily say that was a tradition that came from my parents, but more my grandparents. And that was just something that I always looked forward to and had a fond memory of. And that's one of the things that, my parents were very much there, but I think it wasn't necessarily something that, I don't know. I never had a bad memory of that. So I feel that was something that I'd like to continue with our kids. There's not much of my childhood that I can share with the kids. There's a big difference, at least, between your story and my story. Up until a few years ago, I didn't have anything from my childhood to give to the kids.
Too much stuff.
Too much stuff.
Too many toys.
So many boxes
trinkets,
were saved and clothing and things like that. I barely had photos up until a few years ago. So I think that was one of the things that even with carrying into when we were dating and even when we first got married, is those are one of the few things that I don't physically have it, but it's something I can still recreate from my childhood that I'd like to continue on in our lives. So yeah, it's something that I enjoy doing with the kids. And now that they're a little older, they can help a bit.
Yeah. As much
even if it's a mess.
If helping, you mean, make a bigger mess.
They like it, so it's whatever. I hope that carries on and they get good memories of it. And yeah,
I'm trying to think, because with estrangement, there's just a lot of fear involved and shame involved around
for sure
the idea, because we live in our own little tiny bubbles. We don't know, hey, 27% of other Americans around us are also estranged, and so it just feels very isolating.
Right.
So I'm trying to think if there was anything, maybe for you, as I'm still trying to rattle my brain around, was there any tradition that kind of felt not worthy enough to kind of reinvent? Like, I'm not going to go near it because I'm still kind of riddled with shame, and maybe it was early on, but whether it's surrounding holidays or even anything outside of that, where it's like, I'm not going to do that because I did that with them.
I mean, I guess it's estrangement, but I think it also kind of goes hand in hand with me being half Hispanic. There's a lot of things, and because I am a white Mexican, there's a lot of things that I personally feel like I can't touch.
Because you're not Hispanic enough to do it.
I'm not Mexican enough.
Yeah.
I don't look it. I very much look like my dad, who's white.
So you can't do it unless your mom is here.
Pretty much. It always kind of felt that way. Like, I've talked to you about wanting to start doing Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah.
And just especially with having now my grandmother who passed away almost 2 years ago, wanting to implement that as someone who was close to me in life. But it's one of those things that I'm hesitant to touch because that was a thing my mom taught me about and implemented in our house. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, as you're saying that, I start to think similarly along the lines of being Filipino American and partially more watered down than you in terms of Mexican American. Definitely more watered down than you in that category. But even looking at my family of origin, we're not going to teach the kids Tagalog because we live in America.
Right.
Or we're not going to teach the kids Spanish because we're in America. That's how my family approached things. And so I wasn't taught Spanish. I wasn't taught Tagalog. There's a lot of those traditions that just never made it to me.
Right.
But being the person I am in terms of like being interested in food and food culture, I'm just like, do I want to learn how to make Filipino food? Do I want to learn how to make Hispanic food?
Right.
But that was never taught to my parents. And so it was never taught to me. And so still kind of feeling a certain way of like, should I do that? Am I a poser?
Right.
Am I somehow culturally appropriating these traditions, even though it's technically my birthright? Like, it's in my bloodline to maybe teach our kids Tagalog, even though I don't look Filipino as much, or Spanish and things like that.
I feel like I have a different perspective when it comes to Spanish. I've wanted to teach our kids.
For sure.
But on the other hand of that, I guess that's one of those negative things for childhood that I don't want to go through that with our children. Technically Spanish is my first language because my mother didn't learn how to speak English until I was about 5. So when we were at home, we spoke Spanish. My dad would speak English with me, so I knew it. But for the most part, I was speaking Spanish. But then my mom started learning English and I started going to school. So obviously that switched for me to mostly speaking English and me not being as fluent in Spanish. And I just remember hating because we would do 1 week Spanish at home, 1 week English. We'd go back and forth. And I would just get completely berated over not wanting to speak Spanish and just was more getting harassed about it. And then I remember going to Mexico for the first time in like years and having kind of a hard time. I could understand everything. And like I knew the words, but it was all very like choppy and just feeling awful about it, to the point where I like cried at the end of like one night. And then I like talked to my dad on the phone, and he, once again, not very helpful. It was just kind of like, this is what you get for not. So with those experiences, it's one of those things where I don't want to have the kids feel a negative way about learning Spanish, because that's how I felt. Now I'm grateful for it, and I know how to read, write it, all that.
And eavesdrop.
Okay, listen.
That's the tea of the day. Eavesdropping.
It's one of the
not looking like you speak Spanish, but knowing it fluently to eavesdrop on the family next to us. Fun fact of the day.
Whatever.
But I guess, yeah.
Don't rat me.
I'm not ratting. This is a audio podcast. You do not know what she looks like. Yeah, it kind of brings me to the question of how do we approach these traditions, whether it's directly related to the holidays that we're experiencing now, or even, as you're saying, speaking Spanish, how do we revisit these traditions in a way that can both honor the past, the good parts, and still honor the present of where we are today? How do we find that balance of, again, I want this to be a part of my life still. I want this to be a part of our children's lives, but I know it comes with this extra baggage. And I still have to honor that time, whether it's good and bad, not completely just everything was perfect. Asking a real question.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Good.
I don't know. I guess just take the good and leave the bad. I think you don't have to obviously carry everything with you in terms of traditions. I think it's okay to pick and choose. Mm-hmm. And again, there's only a few things, I guess, in terms of holidays, or I guess whatever other traditions that I like to carry on. But I guess that's why, making new memories is important. Not just new traditions, but just new memories with the traditions that maybe you do want to carry on. And hopefully those can kind of just fill your heart, and it's just a new path with those traditions.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, it was just my birthday. I just turned 30. Oh my gosh, I'm so old.
Old man.
Need my walker. We went and saw Back to the Future, the musical, the Pantages, and it's one of the only real positive memories I have as a kid is watching all three of those over the weekend. My dad bought them on DVD, and it was a trilogy set. We watched all three movies, and I just remember that taking up an entirety of a weekend, finding time to watch these films. And it was just, I don't know, just a positive memory of the movie. And so I've taken that to the extent of, it's a favorite film. It's comforting in a way of, it just brings me back kind of to that moment of peaceful, nothing super traumatic. I mean, maybe there was, and I just blocked it out. But yeah, we went and saw that musical. We took our oldest, and it was just me and him. And so that was kind of a way to bring him into that, fandom, Back to the Future fandom, in a completely new way of what's a brand new musical. And I think as I got older, still at home and still kind of around my parents I never made it an opportunity to watch those again as an adult with my parents. And so it's kind of just that's, whether that was on purpose or not, it was just kind of that was a clear separation of I'm going to keep this in the past where it is with you. And it just so happened to be now I can really revisit this memory in a new way.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that kind of just brings me on to the next thing that I discovered. Psychology Today says to beware of euphoric recall, which is a process wherein people exaggerate happy memories and positive feelings while blocking out the bad ones and associated negative emotions. It's basically reminiscing through rose-colored glasses, distorting past realities to prop up present-day optimism. And so with this, people kind of fall into the trap of, it was there were all these good memories. There were all these positive traditions I had as a kid at Christmas or Thanksgiving or my birthday. And to where they then forget all the negative experiences they had with a parent or a family member. And maybe they should still have those boundaries set in estrangement to some degree. And so with the holidays and the traditions here and everything that comes with it, what tips do we have for people that want to just pick up the phone, get back in contact with those that maybe they should still be estranged with? Because looking through these rose-colored glasses, everything was so good. Let me just forget about it, throw it out the window, because I want to have these positive memories again.
Well, they're the same people they are every other day of the year that they are on Christmas and Thanksgiving, and they might just be nicer on those days just because of special occasion, first of all. I mean, that's kind of like when people, along the same lines of, like, oh, well, they're family. It's not so bad. They're your family. Like, they're supposed to love you and you love them. And again, pushing away all the bad things that happen. It's not so bad. We're all supposed to be there for one another, regardless of whatever happens. I don't believe that to be true.
Yeah.
I think it's important to try and push through. Because, there's times, I guess, where I've thought of, oh, it's not so bad, or it wasn't so bad, or remember that one time we did that one thing, that was fun. When it comes down to it, deep down the root of your issues, are they minor things that you think they could fix? Or no, it's super serious. They need to take accountability. They need to heal their stuff. There's actual trauma at the root of it. And if that's the case, then probably don't pick up the phone, because you might get, if the problem is you pick up the phone and then you talk to them and there you are again, picking up the pieces of whatever they leave behind in their next tornado that they throw at you.
It's again kind of back to what you said earlier. It's just reinventing these traditions on your own terms. You could still have the cinnamon rolls without the parents and then the people there, right? You can still get a tree if that's your thing. You can still go have a turkey sandwich. You can still have these memories and reinvent and make new memories. Positive ones are actually truly colorful and healthy without all the baggage. And one thing I know within the estrangement community or fandom or whatever.
Not fandom.
But within this estrangement community, what a lot of the term chosen family, and it really just goes down to having friends and community outside of maybe the family you were born into.
Right. People that you actually like.
Yeah.
People that are there that actually support you through everything in life, and they love you for you, and you feel supported and loved by those people. And that's not always your blood relatives. It's not always your family of origin, but again, people you've chosen to be around, friends or people you've met at church or some community group, or I know we have some chosen family that we like to make time for and,
associate with,
still keep in contact. And we know that they are our support system. And that's super important. And I think that's helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely finding people that you like you said, healthy is key. It's not the easiest thing, but it can be done and it can be healthy. And if you just remember, there's 67 million Americans out there that are just like you, estranged to some degree. So there is definitely a community that can find commonality with you. And we just got to continue to talk about estrangement, continue to break down the stigma and say, no, this is like a normal thing and it should be honored and kind of revere.
It shouldn't be normal, but it is.
It shouldn't be normal in terms of like, oh my gosh, everybody.
Right.
Like in terms of like the unhealthiness. But unfortunately, it is normal.
It's not a fad. It's not a trend. It's been around forever
and
in varying degrees.
Just remembering that everybody's story is nuanced, it's complicated, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer to anything.
I mean, some people, I'm sure, can find some sort of resolve with their family if there's work put in from both sides and true apologies and accountability, but that's not always the case.
For sure.
Unfortunately. And I think, both sides of whether you stay permanently estranged or you find some resolve, both stories are equally as important.
With that, we'll take a break.
It's not okay. Yeah.
All right. And we're back from our break. So to kind of wrap up this conversation and create something entirely new, but tying in everything together, and that doesn't make any sense. Anyways, since becoming estranged, since becoming estranged, we have had the opportunity to really reflect and choose what traditions we want to bring into our future, as we just discussed, from speaking Spanish, making some Filipino food, movies, yada yada, cinnamon rolls, all of that really into. Everly, you kind of mentioned briefly that there are some traditions that you want to keep in your past. You want to enlighten us on maybe what some of those traditions are and why?
Well, I kind of already touched on the whole Spanish thing. So there's that. Like I said, I would like to teach the kids Spanish. I just...
Still working through it.
Still working through it, yeah. They're still young. There's still time. I just... was a triggering process for me as a child, and I would hate for them to be taught, for me to accidentally teach them in a way of, why aren't you doing enough work to... I mean, the same thing kind of went with learning instruments. Pretty much similar thing of just, not just like nagging, because I feel like we nag as parents too, of, you know, go brush your teeth or go finish your dinner.
Yeah, but that's totally different. That is health.
Right, but I mean, even
not
like,
extracurricular.
But I mean, obviously it's important to have your kids have some sort of drive and discipline to like do things, but I feel like there's a fine line on what that is. I guess, I don't know if it's necessarily tradition, but in the sense of the holidays and gathering with people, whether that's in your own home or at somebody else's home. At least when it comes to Hispanic culture, you're supposed to greet everyone with a hug and a kiss and that sort of thing. Just, you're very touchy-feely. And my mom would always be like, no, you have to go say hi to so-and-so in this manner. You have to go say hi to so-and-so. Your aunt, uncle, half the people I've never met in my life because Mexican family. And I just feel that's, in terms of body autonomy and safety, I never want to force my kids to have to greet people a certain way if they don't feel comfortable doing so. They might just be more reserved as a person, and the wheels are turning in their heads. That doesn't necessarily, but yeah, I guess that's sort of tradition of just having to be completely on all the time, and you have to, you know, yeah, just lack of bodily autonomy in that fashion. I never particularly liked that. Again, I've just met you, and I guess we're related, but I guess I'm giving you a hug now as if we've known each other our whole lives.
I don't know why. I just have to. Along the same lines, well, not really similar. And I mentioned it before, because I don't like family gatherings like that.
Right.
Where it's like everybody is there. Your extended family, your great aunt. Everybody is crammed into this house.
Small space for all day from sunrise to sundown, basically. And you have to basically put on a show the whole time, regardless if you're hosting or not. I was a lot of time I would go to my grandma's house, and it's like, my gosh, everybody's here. That's on my dad's side. And when I would go on my mom's side, everybody, very big Filipino families. So my great aunt's house up in LA, Long Beach area, it's just everybody's there. So many people I haven't met. I only see them at such and such person's birthday. I just always remember, because our family was kind of on the outs within the family, and so we would kind of have our own small little table inside the garage, and then everybody else would be out in the driveway, and just kind of felt, that to me just still felt weird. It's like, do I belong here? Do I not belong here? Yeah.
Like, am I welcome? Not welcome? And yeah, I guess same could even be said, similar feelings of being at my grandma's house on my dad's side as well, with all these other people here. Again, only see you once a year, twice a year.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, again, just feeling awkward, unwelcome to that extent. And then even on the flip side of it, sometimes we would host and it would just be my one set of grandparents.
Yeah.
There's just like those two extra people in your own house.
In your space.
Just feels...
Where your room has to be completely spotless because apparently they're coming to take a tour and hang out in your room.
Exactly. It's like, no, they didn't even see my room.
Granted, I usually did a pretty good job of keeping clean anyway, but my mom will make me clean the baseboards. And so I'm like, who is inspecting the baseboards?
Like, why? Why is it? They're not going in my drawer.
Right. Like your closet's a mess. Why are people going in my closet?
I mean, I guess now being estranged from both sets of parents, we don't really have to worry about that just yet. Maybe I'll warm
I
up
still
to
try
it.
to be pretty clean and
Well, not the clean part, cleanliness, but I mean in terms of like family gatherings. Maybe I'll warm up to it if our kids have kids and their own families. And
well, I would hope by
then
then
we
you
will be
are
the
warmed
head.
up by then.
Then we will be the head of the patriarchy, and we can just rule.
Patriarchy.
We can rule.
Wow.
Matriarchy. What is it? Head of the
The
kingdom.
house,
Kingdom.
head of the family.
Family. We'll be the head of the family.
Patriarchy means that you're in charge.
I don't want to be in charge. You have to carve the turkey, not me. But you know what I mean. Like, we will be the cool parents. The
There you go.
in-laws. We will
Yeah.
be the family where our kids' partners will want to go to our house.
I hope so.
Hope so.
Oh,
That
they're
is on the record. Recorded.
Right.
They will come back.
Another tradition, I guess, is on the funnier side, I guess. The whole New Year's, like, when it strikes 12 and you have to eat grapes, you've got to stuff them in your mouth.
No.
That's like, have you ever done that?
No. We're not that Mexican.
I was going to ask if you've even ever heard of that.
Never heard of it.
Every freaking New Year's, we would have to do it. And I'm like, this is a choking hazard. And the kids, what are we doing?
I mean, again, you're asking me if I heard of it, knowing my family as a family that makes spaghetti burritos with the leftover
Yeah, that's
spaghetti,
pretty-
pan frying it, and then putting it in tortilla.
So
That's the kind of Mexican we are.
it's not even just, no, you're missing a key component that it's not even just regular spaghetti. It's chili spaghetti
But yeah, chili spaghetti,
in a tortilla.
it's good. Don't knock it till you try it.
I can get behind the chili spaghetti part. That's not so bad. But then you throw it into a tortilla and
It's good.
I can't, it's not.
It's better than this next tradition, which is ambrosia.
Yeah, I never had to deal
My
with that growing up.
grandma and grandpa loved ambrosia salad,
No, thank you.
which is just
I
terrible.
never had to deal with that.
I don't really
Thank
know
goodness.
what's in it. I just know it's gross.
Well, it's like Jell-O fruit. I'm pretty sure marshmallow fluff of some sort.
Some cottage cheese.
It's like cottage cheese. Yeah,
And
pretty sure I've only
grapes.
had
I think there's
ambrosia.
grapes.
Like it's grapes. Yeah,
Sometimes there's
Or
orange
like-
slices.
it's fruit cocktail. Sometimes they
It's
throw in there.
terrible. I'm sorry if you like ambrosia, but I, as a kid, did not like it.
It's a
I
white
do
people
not-
thing, and it's crazy.
I do not plan on reinventing it. And I'm not even 100% sure it's white people thing because I had a coworker who was Hispanic who brought it to a potluck one time. And that just threw me
Oh,
off.
what was it?
It was ambrosia. He said, "This is ambrosia salad. It is delicious."
Because I've had, well, maybe because I know I would eat it just cottage cheese with fruit cocktail. That together without the rest
No.
of that nonsense.
It's terrible.
And
Ambrosia's
I
gross.
loved that.
We're not bringing it into this family. This is where I will declare patriarchy. This is ambrosia, fruit
Well,
cocktail.
at least one of the kids is on my side when it comes to cottage cheese with bananas and honey.
He doesn't. Still young, okay? They are still young.
It's good,
kids.
and people need to try it. That's really good.
Fine. New tradition is you can try all the foods, decide what you want.
There you go.
I will not participate in what I do not like.
You're just a hater.
There's a lot of I can definitively say there are a lot of things I wouldn't bring, but I can't
I
think.
feel we don't have I never had maybe why I like the cinnamon rolls thing so much is because that's probably one of the few actual traditions we did have.
Right. Everything just
I would
changed.
I'd get a book on Christmas Eve. It was like, okay, that's not a bad thing either.
Right.
But yeah, I'm having a hard time remembering. I've blocked it out apparently.
I mean,
if
there
they
was
were really
always
that
we're
bad.
going to go to church Christmas Eve, and if there's a Christmas Day service, we're going to go to that too.
Christmas Day?
Yeah, sometimes there's a Christmas Day service,
We never did that. Well, granted, I don't think we ever went to a church like that.
and then there was
I
a
guess-
short period, one time where my dad would try to read the Jesus story, the Bible, in the evening, Christmas Eve. It was maybe lasted 3 years.
Never did that either.
Yeah, and it's pretty inconsistent in terms of whose house we would go to. Yeah, I guess that's one inconsistency. I want to try to be better about doing similar
Actual traditions,
similar
every year.
things every year to keep it up. We just did Thanksgiving dinner and made way too much food that's going to last us for the rest of the year,
If I
basically.
see another Thanksgiving meal, I'm going to cry.
But just creating yeah, we don't necessarily celebrate Thanksgiving, but still trying to have some resemblance of it
Right.
in terms of food wise. This is a celebration. We're celebrating each other. type of thing. Trying to have positive, consistent.
No pilgrims here.
Yeah, no pilgrims, but consistent, like anchor
Just being,
points throughout
trying
the
to
year.
be thankful.
Try to be thankful, mindful of each other's time. Because that wasn't super consistent with my family. We're going to go to grandma's house, or we're going to go to the steakhouse, or Marie Callender's, or, wherever we can get a reservation.
I feel that was kind of how it was for us too, at least very much for Thanksgiving. We kind of switched it up sometimes it would be just us, or we'd have a grandparent in town, or we'd go to friends' houses.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
Yeah. Just like what? Try to create something out of the ordinary, but keep it consistent. Because that wasn't really a thing.
Right.
I don't know what it was.
Right.
Things just kept changing, and that's what it was. But yeah, that's as much thought and things I can think of around that. Is there anything else on your end, maybe related to this? Kind of wrap it up a bit into holiday season, estrangement, anything the listeners should know, or you would want them to.
It is totally normal to be grieving during the holidays, or around any, I guess, thing, birthdays, anniversaries, whatever is important to you, I guess. It may get easier, it may not. Again, everybody's story is individual. Everybody has their own story, but I hope that even if you are grieving during the holiday season, because it can be tough, that you find things that bring you joy, and it's totally okay to keep certain traditions alive because they're still very much part of your story. They're not just from the people that the family you were born into, but they make up your story. And it's also okay to just create your own traditions and make new memories without all the trauma and baggage. No, you're not alone in having a hard time this time of year. It's tough, but I hope you're surrounded by people that support you and love you no matter what. Chosen family, friends, all that good stuff. And do not call those people you're estranged with. If you're estranged for some really awful things, don't think only about, through rose-colored glasses, all the fluffy stuff. Stay strong within your boundaries if they are absolutely necessary.
You got it. Yep, for sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's it. That concludes this week's episode. Until next time.
Stay safe out there.